Before we begin, a little thank you to Choose to Rent, who are the main sponsor. Their stand is just sort of down on the front, so definitely go and have a look at them. For your listening pleasure, you've got your headphones from Silent Seminars. If you need an alternative language, there is Spanish, French and German. Go see Meg at the back and she can give you those headphones. There should be closed captions coming on the screen on the right. Oxygen mask coming down from above at any point should we need it. There's also going to be Q&A that you can do. Scan the QR code on the side, that'll open up on your app. I'll be monitoring that throughout the session so I can hopefully ask you guys those questions. So without further ado, let's get started. Guys, would you mind introducing yourself? Adam, if you don't mind starting, please.
Hello everybody, my name is Adam Parry. I am the editor of a publication called Event Industry News. And for my sins, I am also the co-organiser of this event, Event Tech Live. So we publish everything about the events industry, from trade shows, conferences, corporate events, and we organise this event, Event Sustainability Live, and another show in North America.
Joe.
Hello, I'm the COO of Raccoon Media Group. We organise B2C exhibitions. We've got 10 exhibitions a year in the UK and also in the USA. We also have an online platform called Outside and Active.
Hi, I'm Alison Church. I'm the CMO for Easyfairs. We run, can't think how many events, around 200 events, something like that, across Europe. Majority Europe, a few in Africa, in Algeria. That's a bit of an outlier. And we are predominantly B2B.
So, Ali, can you name 200 of... No, okay.
Sure. How long have we got?
Yeah, Duncan.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Duncan MacOwan. I'm Head of Marketing and Events for FESPA, which is a global membership organisation for the specialty printing industry. We run about 6 large-scale exhibitions around the world, a couple of smaller ones, and have a pretty strong membership with around 15,000 members around the world, spread across about 60 countries.
Thank you very much. So maybe to get started, you guys all come together as part of the AEO Digital Working Group. Maybe we could just give everyone a bit of an idea of what that is, what you do. I don't know who'd like to. Ali?
Yes, I can start with that. So we started the AEO Digital Working Group, I think around 18 months ago. I think the idea was like trying to set it up around 2 years ago. So I'm a chair of the Digital Working Group, Adam is the vice chair, and Joe and Duncan are part of the working group. And the idea really is to look at how we can leverage digital to complement our events. So it's very much really about not necessarily substituting our events, but actually looking at how we can grow our events using digital more. So it can be anything from our kind of 3 main focuses are looking at how we can make some money, so revenue and digital monetization from either existing assets or potentially membership platforms, or anything where you can sort of make money from your users or your visitors. Also kind of 365 content, so how we stay in touch with our communities and build more of a community around our events to really make our events more successful, and then also like how we can use digital to kind of supplement the actual event itself.
Amazing. And maybe, Duncan, could you tell us just a little bit more about your experience with the community that you've kind of built around FESPA?
Yeah, sure. So FESPA's been around for a bit over 60 years now. It's always been about community. About 3 years ago, we brought that community into a digital environment. So it's a gated environment for members only. And at the same time, so our model is a federation, is our core historic members have been associations, and our visitors to our events have been those members and, of course, the wider community, so the members of the associations. Part of the impetus behind launching that digital environment was to invite those members of our member associations into our network. That's where they get their centrally delivered member benefits, so things like market research, exclusive articles, technical guides, things that we offer via our associations to their members. And around about the same time, we also launched FESPA Direct. So if you happen to be someone interested in specialty print and you're in a country which is not already served by one of our current member associations, you can join FESPA Direct. So it's really about engaging directly with our existing members, bringing new people in to an extra layer of engagement with us as members, whether they're direct or existing members of our associations. So that's the thinking behind it, I guess.
Okay, amazing, thank you. And maybe Joe, touching on you, so you're the only consumer, I guess, part of the panel today, but you've got, I guess, a few micro kind of tribes of communities, from some of the advocates that you have through to things like Outside and Active. So maybe just tell everyone, paint a bit of a picture about how all that works together.
Yeah, so the majority of our events are in the active sector. So we run the National Running Show, the National Equine Show, the National Outdoor Expo, the National Cycling Show, the National Snow Show, and then in the US we've got running, outdoor and snow sports. So basically we were looking at a way that we could gather those communities together and have a platform that basically use some of the really rich content that we were creating at the show. So we spend a lot of money on speakers. Today we've just announced Mo Farah speaking at the running show in January. It's not cheap, but what we found is we can get more bang for our buck, I guess, by interviewing those speakers while they're at our events. So, and Matt's actually got experience of this because he's interviewed some of them for us. So we sit them in a room after they come off stage, we interview them, we do a podcast, we then use some of that content for articles and social media, and it's just about getting more for our money in a way, but also engage in that community then all year round, because if you're a runner, you might also have a bike, you might also go skiing or snowboarding once a year. So we found that there's a lot of overlap in our data, and it was one place where we could kind of get everyone together.
And so that's creating more opportunities for your audience to engage beyond waiting 362 days before the next event kind of thing, right?
Yeah, and also there's obviously revenue benefits to that. So we now sell sponsored podcasts, access to our data. We've got 500,000 records in that sector in the UK now. So yeah, there's obviously commercial opportunities that come with that.
Amazing. And Adam, I mean, everyone here, you should know about Event Tech Live. You're kind of here in the room, but I guess that's your community. Like, you actually started with the publication first. I think the rest of you started with the events first and then adding in maybe more content and stuff. So just tell people maybe that don't know a little bit more about how you transitioned to actually delivering an event like this.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, as Matt says, we started off with a publication. And one of the benefits of obviously a digital publication is you can track engagement quite granular. You can see what's resonating with people, what articles, what's being shared, what's being reshared and things like that. And what we identified 10, 11 years ago, a little bit further than that actually, was that there was a growing interest and across the board of our readership, from trade shows to corporates to others, around anything that we publish around technology. So there seemed to be this growing appetite of, oh, actually we want to learn more about that. So that was the kind of the fire that lit us under that kind of started to look at the market and go, okay, there's pockets of people and technology and things at different industry shows, but there's nothing really kind of focusing in on that and kind of, again, looking at it granularly, or providing an opportunity as well for cross-industry learning, as I see it, which is, you know, can somebody from the trade show market learn from what people are doing in the corporate market and vice versa. So that was the driving force to us to launch Event Tech Live, and I'm not ashamed to say that before that I'd not even organised a birthday party, which I don't know if is a positive or a negative. But yeah, I think that's also then kind of really driven our interest in what else can we do around the show, the data, the information, the attendance, the audience in a digital capacity, whether that's to drive more awareness for the exhibitors as added value, whether it's to drive revenue, whether it's to go into visitor promotion and marketing for the following year and things like that.
There is a really good question that's come up that we will come to in a second, but if you have any more, do scan the QR code and feel free to ask. But it all sounds lovely and rosy, and you've built some wonderful communities and wonderful initiatives. It can't come without its challenges, right? So maybe we could just go through the panel and talk about some of the challenges with actually developing these, inverted commas, communities, 365, whatever term you might use in your business. But can we start maybe, Duncan, with you, some of the challenges?
Yeah, sure. Look, I mean, there's always challenges in doing anything worthwhile. I think one of the biggest challenges is just getting buy-in from our board of directors to understand the investment that we're putting into this. That's becoming increasingly easy over time as we're building data. To Adam's point, you can see what people are engaging with. We can now spend quite a lot of time and energy connecting different elements of our tech stack, so from our CRM through to our member platform, through to our event reg and all of the different bits and pieces, of course the ESP as well. So you can actually see, okay, so a member is more likely to attend, and even non-member stuff, so just tracking traffic from your public-facing website and seeing the role that plays in the journey for people to attend the show, looking at engagement patterns around that. So that data, particularly as we approach the long-threatened and now nearly here cookieless world, that's increasingly important. So it's about the top of funnel stuff, but demonstrating that to the stakeholders who are looking at it saying, well, you know, why do you want 200 or 300 grand? Well, that's why, and actually it helps contribute to all of these other bits that we're doing.
And thank you. And I think we're going to come on to specifically some revenue opportunities in a minute as well, because I think that will touch on some of that insight that you've got on how your people are interacting. But Ali, how about you? What have been some of the challenges you faced?
I think probably where we are at the moment, the biggest challenge is kind of, is it really worth it? We've got, obviously having a number of different events, we've got quite a lot of different models. So we've got 2 portfolios which have media products that already had media products as part of them. And for us, that was a bit of a no-brainer to extend our subscriptions into more of a membership and community platform. With those, I think the biggest challenge is because we're predominantly an exhibition business, and the way Easyfairs work, because we're completely scaled with centralised technology, and trying to develop technology that could then work with our existing event technology, we've really kind of had to learn, like, do we outsource it? Do we build it ourselves? And we've actually ended up in a model where we're building it ourselves with plugins. We don't have an IT team directly within the individual offices, and from an HQ point of view, it's not worth it because it's not for 200 events, it's just for 2. So we've learnt a lot. We've made some mistakes. We've found some suppliers that then didn't work, wasted a bit of money. So I think that technology side has been really quite a challenge, but I think with now we've launched one of our communities and we're just about to launch the other in December. And I think the community is there and the model is there. So what's slightly different, I think, on some of our events where we don't have media products is making sure we get the right model and try and work out whether it's worth it. And I think we've got portfolios that have incredible content, but is that enough? And do you want to build a community around it, or do you just allow people to engage with the brand year round and that's enough? I think there are some portfolios where we've got international events in lots of different countries and an international community where I think there's an opportunity to bring that together. But the challenge there is, how do we get a valuable enough content when we don't have a media product already, or we don't have a content team? And I think the challenge there is again, making that business case. Like, is it worth it? Are we going to make enough money to invest in it? And do you invest in it first, or do you try and make a bit of money and prove it can work? And that's, I think, probably our most difficult challenge ahead of us with our portfolios, where we don't already have any kind of media staff or content staff on it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, we'd had just events. And so we didn't have editors, we didn't have people with the skill set. We bought in that for a while to launch it for us. But it was a real challenge, and you have to play the long game. It's not something you can dip your toe into. And if I'm perfectly honest, if it hadn't been for COVID, we probably wouldn't have bothered. But we didn't furlough any of our staff, so we had a lot of people sitting around. We decided it was something we'd always wanted to try. But it's been nearly 2 years now, and we're only just starting to see the benefits. If we could have invested a lot more time and resource into it initially, then that might have been different. But we didn't have the budget, we didn't have the money, we just had a few of us scratching our heads and working out a plan. I remember briefing in our web developer during COVID, trying to show him on Zoom with like drawings that I'd done and coloured in, and trying to it was like a flip book when I was saying, you press on this tab and it goes here, and it was just absolutely ridiculous, but somehow we managed to create a product that works for our community. It's pretty basic. You don't have to log in. It's easily accessible. And there's loads more we could be doing with it, but we just started small, started basic. We launched a couple of digital events, a podcast, and it's just kind of evolved, and now we're starting to see the rewards. We're starting to actually sell decent sponsorship on it, and more than that, we've now got about 30,000 subscribers to that community, and we're starting to see we're attracting people that weren't in our community already. So initially it was a way of engaging people 365, but now it's starting to move on to people finding that brand and then coming to our events from that, which is great.
It's kind of a similar story, you know, with unlimited resource, unlimited time and unlimited budget, anything's possible, right? And as a small team, one of our biggest challenges is not the ideas, it's not even the strategy or anything like that, it's just the resource and time and people to make that happen. Often, many of our, in fact, all of our staff wear multiple hats. They have multiple responsibilities across the show. It's a small bit, and the media. As a small business, that's how you kind of maximise people's efficiency and things like that. So, if our biggest challenge is, what's a good idea and what's a great idea? But then, when you're committed to that great idea, also giving it the time and effort that it deserves. And sometimes, like Joe said, you don't see those returns immediately. We've run our podcast as a digital activation for a number of years now, and only now are we seeing those top line benefits of revenue from it. So it's always been kind of more of a marketing and an editorial push. Now the revenue is coming from it, and I think sometimes people don't give those things enough time. They want to see an immediate return, and then that goes back to Ali's point of, like, you know, where's the focus and what's just a better opportunity at the time.
And it's the opportunity cost as well. While you've got people developing one product, they're not working on something else. And if you work in the event industry, you're used to, well, we are, launching an event, almost selling immediately, getting all the revenue up front, not really having to, you know, and you kind of working it out as you go along, but it doesn't really matter because you know that you can deliver the event and you know you can get an audience there, and everything in between you kind of work out, or you sort out as you go. But with a media platform, you have to invest up front. You don't get any revenues for a long time. If you don't get it right, you've lost, like Ali said, you know, if you invest in the wrong product, you've lost that money and there's no coming back. Like, you have to start again or ditch it completely. And that's the...
Yeah, I think that's the big question mark we're at now is when during COVID we were investing in the content for not just to make money out of the content, but also to make sure we're staying in touch with our communities. And because actually I've always been a massive believer in it, but there's never really been the time. So COVID gave us the time to focus on content delivery, and the teams are sticking with that. But it's, as I say, where you take it to the next step, invest that time and effort and resource. I think that's the biggest thing in it, when you know you can make so much more margin from events. And that's the thing. We all sort of said, well, our events going to come back in the same way, and they clearly have, and that's where we make our margins. So it's actually quite coming back to your point, it's quite a difficult argument to say, let's invest more time and resource in something that's going to make us less of a margin or less immediate profit.
Yeah, and I guess, you know, echo exactly what all of us have said. Events is where it's at for our revenue. That's our number one revenue stream, and always will be. So that's where our success comes from. That's where the funding, the profits from that is diverted towards our content effort and our community effort. I think the way that I've looked at it is from, and also discussed it internally, it's not necessarily a standalone revenue product. It's actually a marketing channel and a number of marketing channels, and the sum of that cost is offset by the revenues we achieve. But equally, you know, talking about challenges, you've got limited resource from our perspective. Our sales team, they can sell a stand from, I don't know, something like $8,000 up to a couple of $100,000, or they could sell an ad for a few hundred. You know, talking about best use of their time, it's very challenging for us to get them involved in selling those smaller add-on things that, you know, fries with that angle, when actually their focus is on the event sale.
Although I would say, as a business who's received some substantial investment recently, that definitely helps. Having that backup, having the data, having something other than just events in a post-COVID world does probably help quite a lot.
I would also add to that it depends on what size and scale of business you're at, right? At the size and scale that Ali's at, and Joe and Duncan, which is much, much bigger than me, those decisions have a bigger impact, right? And the opportunity is much greater elsewhere. Whereas if you're a smaller business like myself, although I'm going to look silly because we've launched 2 new events this year, I don't have the desire to scale to 200 and do multiple verticals and sectors. I'm very much in a niche, and I want to focus in and down on that niche. So for me, actually, there is time when my team, when they're not selling a product on a show, in between that can also create an opportunity or a conversation with that customer around, ad revenue and other opportunities. And in fact, we have companies who are not here that still spend money with us, because ultimately we are a data and marketing business. We are a shop window for them to the industry, and they want to reach that industry. They're not be in a place where they can physically come to a show. It might be out of their reach. They might have the staff to resource it, but they still want to market themselves to that side. And I have this saying: if you're not selling something like that to them, somebody else is. So if you've got a relationship with them, why not try and, if it's feasible for you, have that conversation, create that opportunity, and drive that revenue back into your own business?
Yeah, I think I completely agree, because I think one thing that we don't always leverage is how data rich we are as companies. Events companies are incredibly data rich, and I do think there's an opportunity there to leverage that and to monetize it more, which is where we were looking at kind of membership platforms, and also we look at sort of how we can monetize all of our existing assets already more so. It's just, I think one of the challenges there is the skill set and the conversation around the sales teams to how do you have a portfolio discussion rather than just an event discussion, because it always again comes back to the high ticket item. But I think there is a lot of opportunity. It's just about getting it right.
But maybe you've all touched a little bit on the revenue. And how do you create the split in your teams or whoever is selling the community versus an event? Because you're typically targeting the same customer. So your show person, Joe, you mentioned about you get a greater return on that revenue from the show. But how do you manage the team to kind of go, but they're over there trying to sell £1,000 whatever podcast sponsorship, but then your other sales teams are kind of going, look, we're going to give you some adverts if you take this 20 grand stand from us. How do you balance that?
I can answer that from my team. It really depends on the experience of the person themselves, right? So if you've got somebody, Eloise on our team, she's been with us 13 years, she's extremely experienced when it comes to the media side of things. She's extremely experienced on the event side of things, because again, she's worked on Event Tech Live for 10 years. So her knowledge and capacity and the way that she's experienced now allows her to do a greater volume of things, and that trickles down. If you're expecting somebody new to the business to all of a sudden manage media, sales and stand sales and things, you're asking too much of them. I believe they need to be nurtured on one side of the business and then opened up to those other opportunities. That's the way that we manage it anyway.
Yeah, this has been an issue in our business. As quite a small business initially, we were very good at throwing things in to get the deal signed, this was before we had a digital platform, and we had to very carefully re-educate everybody that you can't do that unless it's worth a certain amount. So we created quite structured packages of what you could and couldn't add in. So if a stand's over a certain size or it's a brand we really want, you can throw this in as an extra if you have to. Everybody now, we did have it very separate. We had a digital sales team, a digital salesperson, and then the event teams, and now we incentivize the event teams to upsell into digital so that you can add on a package when you rebook a stand. They're selling on the contract at the point of rebook, like you can add on this package. And we're seeing some movement now on that, but it's only because the platform is developed and people can see the value in that it's a product in its own right. Initially, that was quite a hard sell, because it was like, well, aren't you just selling to the same list? Like, what difference does it make? If I'm going to be at the show, why do I need to sponsor a podcast? And it was that kind of... It's been a long process and an education, but now we've got some really good stats around what we're delivering and campaigns and case studies. Then yeah, it's great. And like Adam said, you always get people who, you know, if you might be a running brand, but you might have a running app, and you don't want to spend a lot of money on a stand to demonstrate an app. So there are those people where it fits a lot better. Whereas if you're trying to sell running shoes, it's just about brand awareness or a product launch. It's a very different sale.
And maybe Ali and Duncan, one for you. So one of the questions that's come up is how do you engage your exhibitors in your community? I don't know if one of you would like to answer that.
Yeah, sure. So for us, our exhibitors, we have a dedicated newsletter with them, so they're almost a micro community within our comms matrix, if you like. They also have the opportunity to sign up to our newsletters, to see all the public-facing stuff. Our membership offering, in terms of the paid-for membership offering, is only for printers. So that in our world, the suppliers to printers would be our exhibitors or sponsors. So that's there's a bit of a line there that we wouldn't cross from that perspective, and that's really just to keep that ring fence. We don't offer advertising in that space. That is just for our members, and it's kind of very editorial, if I can use that phrase, in the way that it's delivered. But of course, exhibitors, like everyone else, you know, they can advertise on the website, in the newsletters, wherever we've got a digital space for them to do that. There's opportunities for sponsored content, obviously, as long as it's worthwhile and not just a sales pitch. So that would be how we approach it at the moment. Have you, Duncan, have you created any new sort of digital opportunities for your exhibitors? Sorry, Ali, I'll come back to you. But have you created any new opportunities for them as part of that community? Not within the membership community, but we do. So we work with swap cards across our events. So those live on. So the community you create in terms of the people who download the app, the exhibitors, etc., that lives on, and most of the exhibitors have integrated that into their CRM. So their profile, they port from one event to the next, and so they'll still see leads coming in post-event. It's not fully 365. You download an event app, even if you're a loyal member of the community. And the way it works, it's a community app, and then you have the events within it. So you're not going to get someone going in there 6 months after the event specific to that event, but that is something fairly new for us that we've put in place over the last 18 months or so, and actually seen quite a good return on that for the exhibitors, and also for us as commercial event organisers, putting in some paid-for registration and streamlining that and offering the membership as an upsell. That gave us an extra revenue stream there. So both on the membership and also on the registration, just by sorting out the platform and the offering.
And Ali, how are you guys engaging your exhibitors?
So I think in two different ways. One, in terms of digital revenue from monetising our existing sort of whether websites, sponsorship of podcasts or whatever, any type of content that we're offering, it's all part of portfolio sales. So different to Adam, we've actually incorporated it within our sales teams. We did employ a head of digital revenue for about 6 to 8 months to get the sales teams up and running, to train them. But now sort of they're up and running doing that, and in a similar way we have kind of rules of things that they can throw in, things that they can't. But on the membership side, we actually have a supplier category of membership, which is a lot more expensive. It's more of an enterprise level membership, but it allows then suppliers to post things within the community in a certain way. And it's not necessarily all, some of it's product related, but it's the sort of products that people want demos on and things like that. So it's relevant to the community and it's things that they want. For example, on the aesthetics platform, there's ways that people are always looking for kind of new approaches to new techniques for whether it's fillers or whatever, or surgery, whatever. And those sort of sponsored articles are things that the supplier level membership can post within the community. So actually it's something we're really kind of at the beginning of doing, but that's something that's really popular with, it's quite a small market. So the bigger companies who provide all these things are actually willing to spend quite a lot of money on things. So it's always a way, they've got plenty of money, and it's always a way that, how can we leverage that more to give them more opportunities to have more contact with the community and be able to demonstrate their products more year round. So
if I could just also mention something that I think is a really quick win for everybody in the room, because I guarantee you've all got this, is look at your LinkedIn page for your business, for your event business, and really start to look at the opportunity that they present to engage the platform with a newsletter. You're fully in control of that. You don't need to buy the technology. It's there. It's free. It's well supported. For our business, we managed to scale a newsletter from 0 to over 30,000 in less than 7 months. Which gives you a revenue opportunity, because believe it or not, for whatever reason, they let you put banners in there and link them to things so you can drive traffic back to customers. We do a weekly roundup of news, so you don't necessarily need to write the editorial, write the news yourself, although I do believe that's better. You can be a curator of news, so that means you could curate news from other sources for your industry and do something like a weekly roundup, which is fairly low maintenance and low effort. It's, you're selecting things that you think will resonate well with your audience and is value back to them. People are short on time. People love a little quick glance over what's happening in the sector and stuff like that. Possibly also a really nice way to kind of support existing customers, exhibitors, sponsors, partners, whatever it is that you are doing within your sector. And that kind of extends a little bit further now with LinkedIn are doing a lot of work now with the technology providers. I'm going to give a shout out to Additus in the room, because they're working very closely with them to, during registration, they will ask participants if they want to join your company page, if they want to be part of the event page and things like that. So LinkedIn are really getting behind the events industry and kind of driving more engagement on their platform for organisers. So again, those people that follow you there can then subscribe to that newsletter, becomes a marketing channel, becomes a sales channel for $0 down.
So that's, the question that came up, I was going to mention them as well, because I know that they're doing some exciting things there. But the question is, for particularly B2B shows, everyone's on LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. So building out these new platforms or doing things yourselves or however you've done it, why wouldn't you just do it on LinkedIn? That's more of a question for anyone in the room that's kind of looking to start. Why wouldn't you just do that?
I think that works in the sense of it's a news thing. I think the community play is way different. It's way different. I'm going to say something bad against LinkedIn now. I think the community side of LinkedIn is dead. Personally, I don't look at groups myself anymore. I don't join groups. I think it's just a place where generally salespeople go to post things about themselves, kind of thing. Not that I'm aware of, but there may be some really good groups out there that are moderated and managed really well and are really valuable and stuff like that. But for me personally, not. Yeah. And I think you also need to be in control of that, because if the community got switched off on you, that would be a really bad thing for the business.
Yeah, I think just to add to that, we've actually stopped doing groups for any of our events because they don't work. The company pages are great, but the groups don't work. So I completely agree with that.
What is it that doesn't work, sorry? Is it the lack of engagement? The
lack of engagement, lack of membership, nobody's interested in joining. And when you do, it's just, as you say, people posting sales, and you're like, come to the show and do that. Don't do it on LinkedIn. And it doesn't offer valuable content, I don't think. So, we've had a lot of success also with the LinkedIn newsletters, and I think that is really valuable. But I agree. I don't think there is a community. It's a social network really for professionals as opposed to a community. I think it's quite different.
Okay, thank you. There's another question that's come up about how do you address the negative aspects of AI. I was hoping we'd get through the first session without talking about AI.
Wrong session.
But maybe bringing AI into it. Ali, you talked about how you create more content, how you do things like that. There's a lot of AI tools that can help streamline that process. Well, you can become extremely efficient with what you create. Have any of you, in how you're creating content, been using some of those sorts of tools to generate more?
Before we get into the benefits of it, I would also like to start off with, it's very easy to become over-reliant on it, or for your team to become over-reliant on it, and it to become very generic very, very quickly. I think you even need to work with somebody who can train the team and guide them and do it professionally so that they get the right. You need guidance in place, you need a framework, you need training on it, because too many people are going off and doing their own thing, and that could come back to bite you. But it is a very positive thing, I will say. There's so many benefits to it, but you need to make sure it's implemented and team members don't become over-reliant on it.
Yeah, I completely agree, and it's something we're looking at Easyfairs now, having a proper sort of guidance and policy of how to use it and how not to use it, or when to use it and then when to check it, because the thing is, it's not a silver bullet at the moment, and I'm sure it will grow, and I'm sure it will hopefully get more kind of trustworthy, but there's also a lot of privacy issues around it, which people on, your average marketing exec is not going to understand. So we're actually going to build our own AI platform that we can use internally rather than posting all our information in a public domain. We're not quite there yet, but I think there's definite value with it, but it's, as Adam said, you've got to kind of take it a little bit sort of carefully, test things, and we use it for copywriting and things like that, but I wouldn't really use it to generate articles because it's not, there's also it's not bespoke then. I don't think there's a huge amount of value in it at this stage.
I'd echo that, and I'd say we don't use it to produce copy. We use it for topic generation. So it's, that's quite a useful thing in terms of the human use of AI, just on a day-to-day tactical level. But actually, unless your prompts, etc., are super sharp, you're probably not going to get a lot further than you would with a few minutes of spare thought. But it's quite a good starting point to start a discussion around that. Some of the platforms that we use have AI already inbuilt, but really just as, recommending, here's someone you might want to connect with, something like that. So very low level inbuilt with existing platforms in our stack.
Yeah, I think that's probably where there's a lot more benefit around AI, and we're leveraging it more within Easyfairs, is kind of that sort of recommendation type of thing. You were looking at this exhibitor, you might be interested in this exhibitor, for example, is just one example. But I think there's more opportunity to use AI as an events company for that sort of thing than perhaps necessarily content generation.
Okay, we have about 5 minutes left, so if you do have any other questions, please do scan the QR code and ask them in the app. But maybe we've got a good mix of types of event businesses here, so you've all started somewhere possibly a little bit differently. Could you each give a bit of a tip or some advice if someone's looking, where do I start? Adam, you've got a niche community with event tech professionals, maybe starting with you. For someone like you, they maybe have a publication, maybe have a couple of small events, where do they start?
That's a really good question. I would start wherever your heart leads you. First of all, do you want to be more news-led? Do you want to be more content-led? Do you want to create advertising and be more like that led? Do you want to do a community? You can't do them all at the same time, I don't think. You can build them, and you can then build them to run alongside each other. But to get started, you probably need to focus in on where you think you can make the biggest impact for the least amount of money straight away to get yourself going, and then build on that and leverage that to build out other elements of it. Community is still not something that we've managed to crack ourselves. And in fact, actually, I feel like the part of me feels like my community is more the partners, the sponsors, the suppliers, the exhibitors. They're my community rather than necessarily the attendees. I think I could probably build a better community for them than I could for the attendee side, but that's just me personally. But yeah, I think you need to start wherever you think your heart's leading you, first and foremost.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and I would just be really clear about your objectives. And throughout the process, we found we've been pulled in all kinds of different directions, and you can go down rabbit warrens, and you can say, this person's doing this, and these hybrid events, or online events, or webinar, whatever it is. Just be really clear about what you're doing, and keep referring back to that, and why you're doing it, and what you're investing in it, because that's the only way you're going to be able to monitor your return on investment. And it's no good at the end of it saying, but we've got a really nice community here who really love it. Like, if they're not coming to your shows, if they're not engaging, if you're not making money from it, if you're not, it could just be a massive waste of time and effort. And I think having that strategy and constantly going back to it and looking at what you're achieving and monitoring what you're achieving and how you could do more, whether that's to build data or to create revenue or, just create this nice community where everyone loves you, those are fine, but work out how you're going to monitor that and have quite a long-term strategy, because it's not going to happen overnight.
Yeah, I would completely agree. I think you need to start with the why. If you're looking where to start, it's probably the wrong question. It's the why. And so what's your product? What are you trying to achieve as a business? And maybe where are some of the gaps? And can this sort of thing help in any way? And if it can't, then don't do it. If it can, or if you kind of think if you need more engagement year round, then there could be some benefits there. But I would really start with what am I trying to achieve as a business, and why would I even consider this sort of thing?
Tough one to be on the end of the row here, because I agree with everything that you guys have said. I think ultimately an event or a portfolio of events for a particular market is already serving a community. So we're talking here today about digital communities and extending your engagement with that community beyond the physical event. And so to Joe's point, to Ali's point, Adam's point, why are you doing it? And be really hyper clear about that. Is it about extending your reach? Is it about more people finding you and your organisation? So right at the top of the funnel? Is it somewhere in mid-funnel from a marketing perspective? Or is it right down in the core of it for a really hyper-loyal micro community within the overall community? And what are you looking to get from it? Is it engagement? Is it more attendance at events? Is it revenue? Is it all the above? And prioritise that. So that would be my tip.
Do you mind if I chip in with, so just off the back of what you were saying about a digital community, I think the thing that we sometimes lose sight of when we're building communities is actually, if you run an event or you have a media product, these communities already exist. All we're doing really is talking about a way to bring those communities together and provide them with a potential touch point, if they don't already have one, where they can all interact with one another, network, or meet and do business. So I think it's a way, if you're looking at doing anything like this, it's a way of bringing a community that already exists together. Don't think you're trying to build something that doesn't already exist.
Yeah, servicing an existing group or set of groups, 100%.
Amazing, really helpful insights. And there is another question about Talk About Tech. I'm sure you guys will be around straight after the session if whoever asked that would like to take part. But could I do a final bit, maybe Ali as chair of the group, where do people find out more about the AEO Digital Working Group?
So on the AEO website, obviously, we are just, one thing on that, we are actually trying to create some kind of output from the group at the moment. So we've got a meeting straight after this to actually try and sort of put together a kind of like a digital directory menu type of thing. So, but if you're interested in getting involved, then go to the AEO website, and it's Laura and you need to get in touch with.
Amazing, thank you very much. Joe, Alison, Duncan, Adam, thank you very much.